the motherland, the African man. Long as I'm alive, I'ma make a plan. Strongholds to break, got long walks to take, got no votes to make, we don't bet, we pray. Hey, African man, yeah. The African male iris, through the eye of an African male.
I've got another question, but this isn't about the women in your life.
Yeah.
But you did mention that you got to a point whereby you had to face your truth, and you had to accept your truth, and live your truth. So what advice would you give to people? Because I know I'm also a Christian, born a Christian, but over the years I've kind of had my questions surrounding Christianity and the life that we try to portray as Christians. What's your advice to people that are typically living their lives to please a congregation, to please other people? How do they own their truth and break themselves from the shackles of having to live a certain life, which is not what they want, which is not their truth, but because they are bound to they have a bondage to either the church, or they have a bondage to the society that they're in, to portray a certain image to the world of how their lives are actually.
Yeah. I think the starting point is we need to question the status quo. For example, we're taught not to question anything in the Bible. But there are things that don't make sense even in the Bible. So I usually say the process of questioning the status quo, it leads you to unlearn certain imposed habits on you. So to be honest with you, I can tell you right now, a lot of people are now starting to question Christianity. You're not the only one. Yeah. I'm part of that group as well. But I usually say I'm not a Christian, because to me, you read the Bible, you don't see Christianity in the Bible. I believe that Christianity is of man. Even the word Christian, I think it appears maybe twice in Acts, but it was more like the pagans saying, those guys that are preaching, are Christians.
It was a nickname, yeah.
So, it's given. It's someone who came up with an agenda and just came up with the Bible and decided, I need this in the Bible, I don't need that in the Bible. But what I usually say is, when we speak about being a believer, to me, it's just God in you, It's God in you, the hope of glory, like what the book of Colossians 1:27 says. So whatever revelation that you need in your life, it must come within you. But I don't believe that it must always be an external person that is to guide me. Because to me, I usually quote the scripture that says, every man is a liar, only God is true. So we're being led by liars. We're all liars. I'm a liar. So for me to really sit down and say, because I think the mistake that we do is to get to a point where it's like, my life is going to be guided by this guy. I like it when you go to Europe or US, guys can stand up and say, Benfundis, what you taught is not true. But in Africa, it's like, we just have to follow. And you ask yourself, I usually ask this question and say, I've traveled the world, I've traveled in Africa. And I usually say, I've never seen, or the most praying people are in Africa. But now you try to look at the relationship with our praying and our economics. There's an inverse, there's an inverse relationship.
But wouldn't we say it's more of the interpretation of the Bible that's the problem, than the Bible itself, than the word itself? We Africans will more believe in how the spiritual leader would interpret, not knowing the Bible for themselves. Because
I usually say, if there's a problem with this house, chances are going to be the source of the problem is the foundation, most of the times. And to me, it's how the missionaries came to Africa and portrayed the word.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's generational from the time that the missionaries came. They had an agenda.
Yeah.
And their agenda was to use religion to release the resources of the continent.
But I guess the challenge from our side is that we don't know enough of our tradition or
Yeah.
how we used to pray, how we used to do things. We don't know enough of that to defend or to oppose.
Yeah. And you know, I like.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like what you said about questioning everything, because I feel like most times we accept everything that's just presented, the same way that we accepted the gospel that was presented by the missionaries.
Yeah.
When I started touring Europe, mainly Germany, I would perform like in different places. Like there was a time I did a couple of shows in a university town, and then we did a house concert in one of the like really big houses with a big bedroom. It was really cool, you know. I just sat there with my guitar and I just sang a lot of songs and then just explained the background of the songs and whatever. And because I'm a spiritual person, so I also said, you know, the song is a song I sang to God because of this, what I was going through and whatever. And then afterwards, because these are varsity kids, they wanted to have an actual conversation about my spirituality, because they were thinking to themselves, you're African and you believe in God, but we know from our ancestors that our ancestors came to Africa so that they could use religion, so they could get the resources, so that we are where we are.
Yeah.
So they had an honest conversation. It wasn't, they weren't trying to be condescending. They were trying to understand why I still believe that, knowing everything else. So then I then explained to them that, you know, there comes a point in your own personal spiritual journey where everything is based on your personal conviction. So you start to accept things that you know for sure make sense to you. Because when you look into your life, you're like, I can't really say that's just coincidence. I'm sure this was God doing something in my life. You know? But I think that is a very important thing for us as just individuals, to have an identity of being able to know exactly where you stand and why you believe in what you believe in, and not necessarily just always accept everything that's taught.
No, that's true. And the other thing as well is, there's no way that when we speak about God, we expect this uniformity in terms of our story. To me, it doesn't make sense. Because I mean, sometimes I usually say Christians actually don't really believe in the Bible that they think they do. You look at the stories in the Bible. I mean, if there's one book that you get the filth and dirty stories, it's in the Bible. You've got like a father-in-law, like, I mean, Judah and Tamar sleeping together, and Perez is born. But that was the plan of God. If that had not happened, Christ was not going to appear in the lineage. I mean, you've got Abraham having a child with the maid. We've got David killing Uriah. But then the African kind of like religion comes and say, no, you need to be this upright. You need to be this righteous man. But I'm like, Christ is our righteousness. But let me see your story, you know, until maybe a certain point, you know. So you can't have all these dirty stories in the Bible. But all of us, like, there's this thing that if Victor has this kind of story, he needs to be condemned. He's a bad guy, you know. And I usually say to my kids, you know, as much as like the other question that you asked me to say, what am I wishing for my kids? I mean, of course, I'll say to them, guys, I don't want you to have the story that I have. But one that I always tell you is own up to your story. I've done the same, you know. It's not like everything that I've done is rosy, you know. But at the end of the day, you've got that power to decide how you want your story to be packaged. You know, are you going to take your story to transform other people's lives? Or are you going to take your story and say, I'm going to hide it, it's embarrassing? You know, you decide. And to me, the reason why I share my story is because I've sat down with thousands of people. Everyone has a story, you know? And you meet people that have been married for years, and they come out like, we've been married for 4 or 5 years. But they are not willing to share those dirty things. Then to me, I want to listen to you. You know, I mean, I'm sure maybe even in my family, or I'm sure maybe in your families as well, there are some stories that you discovered at a later stage, you know, that, you know, this Bamdala or this uncle slept with everybody, was swept under the carpet, and they portrayed this holy, you know. It doesn't work. You know, but when you come out and say, this is the story that I have, and it, you know, like for example, right now, there's this program that I once bombed on TV. It's a European guy I think he's got about 7 wives. But he's in Europe. He's a white guy. And people watch that program and get excited about it. But when it's coming from African side, people are like, no, polygamy,
Then
no,
they
it's a no for
condemn,
us.
yeah.
You know? But like what I said, I repeat what I said before. Almost maybe 99% of the guys, they're seeing someone else on the side. It's scary. And I know a lot of guys
Prayer, you know.
that are pastors.
Hey, there's 3 of us.
You know, and in all
Now we're
fairness-
suspects all over.
yeah. So I mean, when your wives watch this, they're like,
Yo.
then they'll start to have those deep conversations.
I think,
Please tell me.
I think you know what I think to sort of sanitize that statement, right? I would say at some point in time, either during your marriage or during one of your relationships, there was a point in time where you were either seeing someone else or you were speaking to someone else.
No, definitely.
Yeah, but remember as well, I mean, when we speak about seeing someone else, it's not really about having a relationship. You know, I usually go back and say, when the Bible says, if you look at a woman with lustful eyes, you've already sinned. Christ was simply saying, there's no man who can look at a woman without. There is no man. He was simply saying, guys, you can't beat sin on your own. You can't defeat sin on your own until I come and save you.
And save you.
Yeah, and I think that level of honesty for me, I mean, I remember a day, my parents are pastors.
Oh, okay.
And they've been married for 41 years.
Okay.
And I was the MC for their 40th anniversary, and they wanted to like renew their vows. And I was just like, guys, after 40 years, what are you trying to renew? Like, what? You know? But they are your typical pastors.
Yeah.
They're very effective because they love people.
Yeah.
You know, and they are really good at helping people and being there for people. And that, I think, is their biggest gift, because they have so many people that just are in their lives that love them.
Yeah.
But I remember saying this to them, and I said, I have a problem with the church, you know, because we have really honest conversations. And I said,
I hope you
I
didn't
feel
tell them
like-
about the pastors.
no, I told them about that story.
But
I
we
said,
definitely need to make an episode.
I
out of this
said,
one.
yeah, definitely. I said to them, when people tell their stories about successful marriages, they say we've been married for 40 years. And I said to my mother, you shouldn't say that. You should say I was married for 40 years, but 7 of those were shit. Because if you lead with that story, I will pay more attention to what went wrong,
Yeah.
And how did
why
you
it
fix
wasn't
it?
happy,
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
was fixed,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the root problem was.
Yeah.
And that is the stuff that we need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yes.
always teasing my mom and saying, how come you never told us this thing is difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like marriage and kids. Like, what is this,
Yeah.
bruh?
Yeah.
Like I could be coming home to you and you would be making me my favorite dinner and we'll watch TV and I'll go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, you know, and she's always laughing. And I'm like, yeah, but how many, I actually said to her, how many of the years of marriage were not happy? And she actually had to think. And I was like, you see, that is the thing that you don't tell these young people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'll stand up and say, we've been married for 40 years and I love my guy. And if you see my parents, you will be inspired to get married. I
Yeah.
swear it.
And
'Cause they do that
That's
to-
what misleads a lot of
Yes,
people.
they do that to everybody. But this is because they genuinely love each other. And they've gone through like so many difficult things together. So their bond is real and it's strong. But what I always say to them is, give people the real.
Picture.
Don't give people the
Yeah.
success bit and leave out all of this.
Yeah.
I'm almost worried that we're gonna venture. I think we need to separate this topic because it's
No, this is
mind
just a
blowing.
comment. This is just a comment
But,
on the level of honesty, because that's
100%.
exactly where we're at.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the level of honesty from fatherhood, from your individuality, from
Yeah.
how you relate with women, from being married or whatever it is. In anything
Yeah.
that we do, there has to be this extreme level of honesty, because what it does is it makes everybody feel comfortable to be real.
Yeah.
Then we stop being, giving each other facades and stuff.
Yeah, I remember one time, like, I was actually cycling with my friends, and so like we're just at a coffee shop, and I'm starting sharing my story, and I'm like, my whole life, guys, when I started dating, I've always had 2 women. You know, all the guys said That's my story. That's my story. That's my story.
But that's it's typical with men. Men will never conceal what's really happening until one of us
them
comes out.
And that's what I mean. That level of honesty is exactly
So that's
what brings
what
healing.
prayer is. No, that's very true. Because to me, I usually say, just to support what you're saying, rather give us, the times when things went wrong.
Yes.
Because to me, the success of any journey is when you fall and how you stood up. But a lot of guys, it's all about 35 years with one woman, and they put this glory, and to also add on what you said, there's a friend of mine. Her dad is actually led. So when she had a first divorce, then she goes to her mother like, "Hey, mommy, no, I've given up. Officially, we're divorced." He said the mother started crying. And she says, "What's the reason why you divorced?" Like, "No, he was cheating and I got tired." It's like, "Do you know that your dad is another child that I've never told you about? Things were not as rosy as you guys saw." She says, "I broke down. I said, why didn't you tell me before I made this decision?" And now she goes back like she wanna, arrange, remarry. The guy says, "No, I moved on." He says, "If my mother had told me that it was not as rosy as we thought," he says, "No, you're dead for years. You had a girlfriend. And there's a child, and I'm going to introduce that child to you. It's unfortunate I'm going to introduce it now that your dad is gone. But yeah, that's the story."
Man.
But I've got a silly question. How do you convince these women to agree to be in a relationship with you? Because from what you've been saying, I can tell that you seem to be upfront with these women about your situation before you meet up with them.
Yeah.
I cannot, in my mind, fathom. A guy came to me once and but I'm living with another woman, we've got a child, and I'm like, no, thank you. How do you convince them to come to that? Because as women, we are also taught that, if this man has gotten so many women or so many kids, this, how sure are you are going to be able to change him? And one thing about women, we like projects. So you're also a project. So we'll look at you like, guys, Victor is a problem, I can fix him. But then how do you convince women to agree to be with you and then have kids and then tell them, I'm taking your child, I'll live with your child with my other children?
Obviously, the issue of the kids coming to live with me, I think it was a process. And it wasn't of that thing of like, I just met another woman, okay, please, I'm going to take this child. But what I usually say is that we live in a very empty world. And I usually say a lot of people, not just women, they are kind of like also waking up to say, this world is empty. There are no men out there. There are no women out there. Not even just on the women's side. Even as a guy, to really get someone that you can really build with, you struggle. So, and I usually say a lot of women, not that I'm taking advantage of that, but a lot of women are so broken out there. They've been through a lot, and which is my other reasoning of say conventional church is not working. If people can be so broken, yet they go to church every Sunday, something's definitely wrong, So I think I mentioned this before. Usually when I meet someone, sometimes it's not about really dating. You start to tell me your story, what you've gone through. I think this is the gift that I have. I'll actually help you to turn around your life. So no matter whether reality in front of you says, this guy have had like 8 kids with 60 different women, so I might be another project. And I've had that resistance before. Like my current wife, her mother simply says never. That's a no. Like this guy, no matter how nice he is, that's a no for me. But then she had said, I'm old enough, I'll make my own decision. So it's not like it's every person that I meet is like, yes, I'm going to be with you, But I guess that gift that I have, that someone starts to weigh the option, like, but you know what, this person has helped me. But I usually make this this reason, especially with my girl kills my daughters, I usually say a lot of women are with us because of needs, not because they really want to be with us. Because you know that going back home, things are not.
It's not an option.
It's not an option.
Yeah.
So I'd rather stick with this guy because I can get A, B, C, D. So I usually say to my daughters, you know what? Build yourself. I don't want you to get to a point where, you know what, you're just going to be with someone just because your needs are being met. You know, I usually say there's a difference between what you do and who you are. I remember I was speaking to Nicole, my first daughter, and I'm like, if you meet a guy and you ask him, who are you? He says, I'm Victor, drive a Ferrari, run away. That guy is defined by what he has. But when you meet someone and he defines who he is in terms of, you know, what he loves and, you know, apart from any fleshly things, you might build something with that person, you know. So maybe to answer your question is, it doesn't sound right when it's coming from me, but sometimes I think women are just being with us because of their needs. And it's like, what's the other option? And you go out there, most of the guys, they're just useless. So now you find like maybe, when I speak to women, I usually say, most of the women that got divorced, after some years, they come back and become your side chick. After they have had multiple relationships and they realize, hey,
The grass is not always greener.
it's not as green as I thought, it's dry, you know? Because to me, I always say, as much as I've gone through all these relationships, it's not like I'm really proud to say, I had the relationship, then I left her, you know? Which is maybe that's something that makes me struggle as well, because I always want to make things right, you know? Because I usually say, you know, as a woman, if you meet a guy, he sleeps with you and leaves you, I usually say, it's like someone just comes and, you know, and stab you and just leave you and say, go on your own. A lot of women are like that. And you meet the next guy, he does the same. You meet the next guy, he does the same. And then you find that person now one day gives me a shout, Victor, you know what? I thought you were a bad man. I'm better off even if I'm the seventh woman in your life. I've had those kind of conversations, you know. So I think we need to accept that the world that we live in right now, things are bad. And to me, even divorce, I think the other episode that I was watching, I think that the other guy was here.
Actually, I'm so happy when someone says the episode.
No, it's kind of like infectious. I mean, I started watching that. I was forced to watch all of them. You know?
Nice.
So I was watching, and he mentioned something that I agree with him. He says, you know, if someone says, I want a divorce today, I'll try and sit with that person and say, please don't.
Don't, yeah.
You know, I'm almost on the same level as well. You know, sometimes I usually put it this way, that my experience now with what I've gone through, sometimes what we do as men, as women as well, is it's like someone says, you know, she doesn't know how to swim, but then she jumps into the pool and starts drowning. Then you start to say, but you knew that, you know, you don't know how to swim. Why did you get there? But the person is drowning. Forget about all that. Just jump into the water and save that person. You know? And to me, I think that's one thing that I'm seeing transformation in my life, to say, but you know what? My wife annoys me on this, but you know what? I'm the first person to save you on this. I mustn't be every time I'm the one, like, you know, like, no, why are you doing this? Why can't you change? You know, we can't change people. But at the end of the day, you can assist them to change on their own.
Important fact also for our children.
Wow.
Yeah.
How we parent as well. It goes
true.
to that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I usually say to my kids, you know what? Okay, let me look at your results. Okay, you did A, B, C, D. I'm not happy with this. But you know what? Dude, you're my son. That doesn't change the fact. You know what? You're my princess. And you're the best of the best. And that transforms my kids. But imagine, like, I mean, yes, I'm very strict. But what I realize is it is love that changes everything. You know? Like, people sometimes always say, but why are your kids so grounded? Like, they're so disciplined. And I usually say, to me, it's a myth that kids need both parents. They need love. How it comes packaged, it doesn't matter. If they might grow up just with their dad or their grandmother, if the love comes packaged in a natural way, how God purposed it from the beginning, that child is going to be fine. Because how many people do we know that grew up with both parents, but they turned out to be something else?
Yeah.
You know, so there's no formula into this thing. That's why to me I always say, guys, this is my story. You know, it is the shame, you know, that became the badge of honor for me. The whole world, I don't care that the whole world is going to say, this is shame. This is what kind of a guy? But I'm like, this is my badge of honor. And I'm going to share this story until.
My question is, who let you train pastors? How did you get into that space? Like sitting now and listening to you speak, I can get it, but I'd like to know how that happened.
You know, a calling is a calling. Okay, I don't believe in going to a Bible school. I've never been to a Bible school. But maybe let me tell you how the whole thing came about. So I grew up in a Christian environment, but I was never a believer. You know? I was never a believer. And there were times where I was really questioning my life and, you know, after the first divorce and like, but what's happening? But most of the times when people invite me in churches and they just give me like a platform, someone will be like, this guy, you know.
It's like, why?
Who gave him the mic?
Yeah, and most of the time, when I become a new member in a church, somehow I start to clash with the pastor of that church. Because the moment he gives me a platform, like, people start to connect with me more.
Because you're real.
Because you're real.
Yeah, you know. So it happened one day, like, I think it was 2013, 2014. So now, after my first divorce, I'm questioning a lot of things, man. You know, and I never wanted to get divorced. And remember, that was a time where I was still condemning myself with all these other kids. And now I find myself, now I'm divorced. Officially, I'm divorced. You know, I usually say people that have divorced, you know, the day that you receive those papers, you look at them like, somehow you wanted this, but it's like reality kicks in like, yeah, this is reality now. You know, and it got to a point where I'm like, no, I want to transform my life now. But I'm doing the religious way. I usually say, I used to make God a casino, you know. I started writing devotions. I like writing. So I'll write devotions, I print them, and life is tough that time. So I'll go to churches and like, please give your congregates, you know, I'm thinking like, if I do this to God, that's religion. People think if I do this to God, God is going to transform my life. But God is not a casino, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Adam, when he covered himself with fig leaves, he's trying to take himself to the state that God put him. In Genesis 2 verse 25, I'm naked, but I'm not ashamed. To me, that's my life. I'm naked, but I'm not ashamed. If we talk about salvation, you get into a point where you are naked, but you are not ashamed. As long as you are still ashamed, you are not saved. Stop lying to people.
I like that term, God is not a casino. so when you say it, it just started playing in my mind.
So people like, when I tithe,
going in,
God is going to change my life.
Yeah,
if I did, you know, if I go to church, I usually say the mark of where you're going to realize that I now have a relationship with God is where you don't go to church and you don't feel any guilt. To me, that's a sign that now you've got a relationship with God.
Because you're working on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Exactly.
Saturday,
Before,
on the
to me, it was like,
relationship.
if I don't go to church on Sunday, I feel like, you know, I start praying and trying to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's being lost. You don't have a relationship with God.
It's almost
Why
like
does
Sunday.
Why do you have to wait for Sunday?
Exactly.
Sunday is just an hour or two where we make ourselves feel better for all the
Bad
bad
wrong
that we. Hey, it's true.
No, you know, it's true. So it happened one year, like, so I'm going to this church. So I was living in Blue Hills then. So I just drive and I see this church, like, but it's you know, Blue is like their farms, that side.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this church. It's like it's an old church. Like, there are no people there. I go to the gate, and then I'm trying to knock on the gate, but I realize there's no one. Then I left. But following day, I can tell you there was something that says, go back to that place. Go back to that place. I just drove to the same place. Then I see there's a number. Then I phoned the number. Then it's like the guy that received my call, it was like a Chinese guy. He says, no, just push the gate. I'm in. I'm available. Then I went in. So it happened that the guy was actually from South Korea. He was a missionary, you know. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to give you those devotions and, you know, and you can give to your congregates. Then I'm like, you know, I'm leaving. It's like, do you have time? I'm like, oh, yes. He's like, let's share something from the Bible. You know, that guy shared with me for about an hour. The Bible sounded like it was a different book altogether. It was on the 6th of December, I remember. He said, do you want to come back tomorrow? I'm like, yes. And he's from South Korea, so even his English, like, is not like really straight. Come back the following day. To me, I always say that's the day that I received God in my heart. And I remember he read John 1 verse 29 that says the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. I'm like, I've been condemning myself. I've no sin. I mean, Christ died for all my sins. So,
100%.
I'm 100%.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. Somebody once said to me, they were having a discussion with somebody, and he was like, you know what's funny? Jesus died for us sinners, not you, the self-righteous.
Exactly. No, exactly. For sure.
Exactly.
And that's the way.
That is a good one.
You know, and now there was this new transformation in me, like, you know what? I need all my kids. Like, you know, I said, Victor, you okay? Dude, you are righteous, but not your own righteous. You know, Christ is your righteousness.
Exactly.
You can never be righteous on your own. I grew up in Jehovah's Witnesses trying to keep the law each and every day and failing each and every time and asking for forgiveness. But this guy says, Christ has done everything. And now, I started coming to this guy. I started attending even their church. It's a South Korean church. But this guy, every day, you come to my house, sit with him, have fellowship. That was my Bible college. Then he says to me, Victor, do you want God to change your life? You are called, go and preach. I'm like, but people ask me questions, says, don't worry, God is in you, go and preach. And I remember I did the first conference in Zim, you know, and my mother-in-law, but my ex-mother-in-law, but she's like my mother, I still have a very good relationship. So I'm starting advertising, guys, I'm training pastors for 3 days, right? All right, I go to Zim in Bulawayo. I've got about over 200 pastors waiting for me.
Yo.
All right, so my mother-in-law, but I call her my mom, you know, but she's my mother-in-law. So my ex-wife, my first wife's mother. And she's there, she invites like everyone, you know, like she's excited, like we've got a good relationship. Like she's excited, Victor's preaching. You know, the first day she was crying throughout. Like, you know, Mtanami, I don't know how happy I am. So I think in her mind, like Victor is now a different, you know, things have transformed. And it was a beautiful 3 days. You know, I remember my nephew is like, hey, auntie, you need to tell me the truth. Where are you taking these scriptures? Okay, I can't prepare someone. To me, if I can start now, I'll just take the Bible and scriptures will come and I'm going to share. And I started more, I remember I did a 7 days in Bulawayo as well, where like I brought pastors, you know, and my mother-in-law as well, they supported me, gave me like a beast, a cow, and for 7 days, you know, in my dope in the bushes. But that's how it started. And I started to go to Kenya, you know, Tanzania, Nigeria,
Wow, man.
US,
Wow.
Philippines, you know. I started going all these countries and training pastors. And somehow there was a revelation of saying, you know what those guys have been preaching, they've gone, you know, so far, but in the wrong direction. I'm not saying I'm the expert, but there was that revelation of saying, Victor, you're still a child, you are still growing as well, but there's a lot of things that need to be corrected in the church. And I don't even hide to them that I don't go to church. Fine, I get invited. Most of the weekends I'll get invites to come and preach here, you know. But I'm also going against the status quo. I mean, you invite me, I'll come like this with my shorts. And I mean, I've got tattoos and I'm like, and I want you to see that this is who I am. You know, because people usually say, you know, God comes above culture and all that. But I'm like, I mean, you go to most churches. I mean, you guys, you've actually adopted the British culture. Your own ties and
culture,
each and every.
yeah.
That's someone's culture.
And it's like
You know,
sometimes it's just hot, guys.
Hey,
It's hot,
I was about to say that, you know,
like it's hot to you.
you see how hot it has been in the past. I was invited in this other church, I think about 2 weeks back. I'm like, guys, remove ties, guys. It's hot. I'm watching on my shorts. I'm like, it's hot, guys. And you attend all those, most of the white churches. I mean, people just go on shorts and they spend about an hour. Gone. But look at the progress.
Yeah, you
But-
know, it's two things that I wanted to say about that. The first is I was watching Saving Private Ryan for like the millionth time.
Yeah.
And then this time around, there's a part when the soldiers are in these containers. They're they are in the sea, about to reach the shore. And then they are in these containers preparing for the battle at hand. And then there's a number of them picking up their crucifixes and kissing them and saying their last prayers before they jump onto the sand to get killed, right? Or to kill, right?
Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, these guys are praying to go kill someone.
Yeah.
But then when we are taught about conflict, if I get hit on the one side of my face, I should offer the other one. You get where I'm coming from? So the way in which the word is preached to a certain demographic, or rather a certain people, is totally different from the way that it was preached to us.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And then the second one was dang.
Blank out.
You know,
also invested in the first one.
I saw that.
all right, why are you trying to get your thought back? The first time that I went to DR, I've been to DRC 3 times. So I was going to train pastors. I went to a place called Goma. There's a lot of fighting in that place, So I remember everyone around me was like, Victor, please don't go. That place, no. I'm like, no, I'm going, guys, So I went there. So I went through Rwanda. So I flew to Rwanda. Then I got a bus. It's quite easy when you go to Rwanda than going to Lubumbashi. So then I was there for I think about 4 days. All right, so it was full, So there's this notion as well, especially when you're coming from South Africa and you come to DRC, people they know South Africa as, So I get there and okay, beautiful day. And I remember the first day when I get this, we booked a hotel for you. I'm like, cool, So now they're taking me to the hotel. Hey, it's not a hotel, man. There are buckets. I have to use buckets to bath.
Wow.
So I'm like, hey, guys, with all due respect, is there maybe 5-star or 3-star,
Uh-huh.
They're like, no, too expensive. I'm like, okay, no, it's okay, Then fine, I had to book myself better place and, But I appreciated, their gesture and, But the kind of poverty that I saw in that place, and I've always, we all know DRC. That's the worm of any mineral that you can think of.
Yeah.
All right. So the third day, this other pastor says, there's another elder. He has been sick for a long time. So he says, please, when you come, he wants you to come and pray for him. So I'm not a believer if I have to pray for you. I just have to give the word to you. God will work in His own way. Because to me, it's like you wanna get these 350. What do you call them? There's stamps that you go get every month in South Africa, but you're in Zimbabwe. You ought to get the citizenship first. So I'll try and lead you to Christ first, then you can pray for yourself after that. So this guy, I lead him to Christ and he's happy. And, he says, I've been going to church all these years, but I've never heard what you have shared. Then he says, he calls the wife, then he's speaking the local language. He says, then the wife comes back. He brings those baskets full of stones, precious stones, tourmaline stones. And he's like, I might die. I'm like, no, you won't die. He gives me papers like, these are my connections in Thailand. I want you to sell the stones. But I did not go for stones. I went to preach. But the reason why I'm sharing this story is the amount of wealth in that country. But the guys that are claiming to believe in God, they are so poverty-stricken.
Yeah.
So, you cry. You end up so in DRC, you can actually use your ATM card. Dollars just come. It's not like Zim, I end up spending money just looking at how dire the situation was, And I came back, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to buy stones. I went to buy stones. So that's how I got into mining anyway, But to me, this is where sometimes religion makes me angry. These people spend so much time. They'll tell you from morning we're in church. So I think they're impressing you. But sometimes I become so harsh. I'm like, guys, let's stop this nonsense. Let's come up with programs to work this land, So I'm big with projects to say, I don't believe in tithing. Tithing to me is not a New Testament, thing. That's a story for another day. But what I believe is all of us needs to work. Let's have projects. If I'm going to, to this land, in this village, people have land there. Let's work. If there are stones or there's land, let's get into farming. Let's raise money together. instead of like, we're just going to pray. Because I always say, I don't have to pray to buy this car. I have to work hard and buy the car. You know, I don't have to pray to get a house. I have to work hard and get a house. You know, but there's this notion about religion, you know, that all these people, they're so poor and stricken, but they're praying each and every day.
Seek ye first the kingdom and all.
So we need to come out of that.
Yeah.
So my story is also the revelation of trying to bring transformation in people's lives, you know, through that.
Then that's how the church setup should be. Yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
But you know what?
I remembered what I wanted to say. It was actually about what prayer was saying. When it's like, it's so hot, but why are you wearing ties and all of that?
Right,
Yeah.
And then it just sparked a thought in my head. And then I was like, that's actually peacocking. So peacocking is a term that came from when slave owners had slaves. And then when it was time to go meet other slave owners, whether it was for fellowship or whatever it is that it was, they would make sure that their slaves are dressed in the best clothing.
So that they can sell them at a higher...
So now when they take their slaves to fellowship on a particular day, the slaves are supposed to dress properly, which is why every Sunday, when you say, I want to go to church, you actually peacock.
Yeah.
Sunday best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sunday best.
True.
Okay.
So
It's
sad.
very interesting.
No, it's
I mean, I think, guys, we might as well, we could go the whole day on this one. But I think it's very true to say that, Victor, this is probably not going to be your last visit to us. Hopefully we have learnt a lot,
Absolutely.
accumulated a lot, and
Absolutely.
I think your story is definitely going to help so many men out there, and that's the aim, that's the goal for our podcast, just to give, just to be open to men, because there are not many platforms like that, and even as you shared that, some platforms are there, but men are actually hiding their truth.
Yeah.
You know, they are not coming out and actually owning their truth. And, we thank you for that. I think something that we need to do quickly is to run through our segments, and I think we need to have that culture now when we have guests. You know, we've got 3 segments that we do on the podcast, and that's Slim is with health,
The health and fitness.
health and fitness. Slim, prayer soul business.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Myself, it's a double thing. I'm in entertainment, so I was giving advice to fathers about where to possibly, spend time with the kids, and a time when you want to also give your partner a break, and you want to just have that alone time with your children, places you could go. So maybe from your side, maybe starting with health and fitness. How is health and fitness for you? How does it look for you?
Because I heard you mention cycling.
I love cycling, but I was coming actually from Zim. It's about a month ago. So I'm sitting with this woman. So like, fine. I'm that person. Like when I sit with you, like I'll start a conversation no matter what. So like we started just talking, and so like then she looks at my phone. So there's the gym Vision Active card. Like, but Victor, do you really go to Vision Active? So I wanted to say, please don't look at my tummy. I do cycle. I did finish 94.7, but I do a lot of cycling. To me, I usually say there's physical fitness. That is to be part of you. I mean, there's spiritual fitness that is to be part of you. I usually give an example and say, when you speak about God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and I usually ask people like, but who comes first? And a lot of people will say God. I'm like, no, they are all one.
Exactly.
That this is why it destroyed Africa, because people are just focusing on God, and but we need to work hard. We need to work the land. We need to do all those kind of things. So fitness and health. Yeah, I mean, I'm also in the medical space. I've got a medical company as well. So I think that should be our priority as well. Yeah, and we used to. Yeah, I think we're no longer doing it, but we used to have sessions with my kids. Actually, I used to have a trainer who comes and train my kids. But my kids also do cycling as well. So actually, the Uncondemed Dad, there's Uncondemed Dad family cycling, where I'm trying to bring fathers together and say, bring your kids, let's cycle together. Yeah. So it's just a concept that we're developing now. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when it comes to fruition, you have a platform to actually come and speak about it. and promote it as well.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I already have a friend who cycles with his son, so
Okay.
he would definitely be
Yeah,
interested
no,
in that.
And then,
that'll be great. Yeah.
maybe from my side, like where when you're going out with your kids, where do you go?
Like the Craig. So I'm in Denford, so usually at the Craig.
At the Craig, what happens there? What's
The cycling. I mean, a lot of people Saturday, Sunday, people cycle there.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I remember. So my other son cycles as well. He's actually doing sports management at University of Northwest. And I usually say, when we were growing up, it was all about academics, and we thought the only way of fun was just women and alcohol. But when I started cycling, like the kind of fun that we have. After that, we have drinks, and there's so much fun. And sometimes some people are like, but Victor, it's Sunday, but you're cycling. Why didn't you go to church? I'm like, that's my church, And you get all these successful guys, and they're busy cycling. But I usually say, I'm not saying people in church are not successful. I mean, there's a lot of them. But there's a lot of them, but you start to discover that there's so much fun out there, where there's one that happens in Zim, in Matopo, where you get 5 days, cycling in the bushes on MTBs, mountain bikes, and you having, it's fun. So there's a lot of things, that are actually source of fun, but we're kind of like, our parents were just pushing us to the academics, and we thought that's the only, but there's a lot of things out there,
True.
Yeah. I know people like my brother cycles with his wife, and I usually say my brother and his wife, even like when you're doing 95.5 and you finish it, I think in 2 hours, 55 minutes, you wanted to do it again.
Wow.
Sometimes we'll go to cycle the Craig. The wife, after cycling, will run 10 Ks. After that, go and swim 2 kilometers. That kind of. And I'm like, there's more to life, man. But sometimes, especially, we tend to realize this after divorce but our marriage was empty, man.
Oh yeah.
Then when you are now alone, we could have been doing this kind of
All
thing. We
these
could have been
things,
cycling on this.
yeah,
There's a friend of mine, he drives Porsche cars, and he goes to Germany and he goes with his wife, and he loves motorbike. So he goes to these shows where they'll cycle. There's one that they did, I think, about 3 years back in Germany, 12,000 kilometers. He said, Victor, I'll never divorce this woman. 12,000 Ks, she was behind my back. We're exchanging. She's in front. I'm at the back. So he says, the fun that we have, I don't have that much money. Yes, I'm driving Porsche, but he says, that's the fun that we have. And they did another one, I think it was, I can't remember the country in Europe, but they're now on a Porsche, and they've got 2 kids, and they go with the kids.
Nice.
Wow.
And it's like 15,000 crazy Ks, So what I'm trying to say is, especially for the African male, we need to transform the way that we think. There's so much things that can give us fun. And when we do things together, like what I said earlier on, that it's not love that builds marriage, but love becomes the output. So when you are always together, cycling together, doing all those exciting things, then you become close friends. Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
From a business
So,
side.
with regards to business, I heard you talk about the medicals company
yeah.
and mining as well. What else do you do?
IT. So my bread and butter is IT.
Okay.
Yeah, I implement treasury systems.
So the medicals and mining, was it something that then came out of, because the main business philosophy that I've seen to be very consistent recently is that people say you need to figure out your main thing first.
Yeah.
And then from your main thing, you then,
Venture
sort of start
into-
your side hustle.
Yeah.
And would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. So IT has always been my bread and butter, but I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So when COVID starts, people don't even believe that this medical campaign started during COVID. So when COVID started in Europe, so I remember my PA then, I'm like, let's go buy sanitizer. Like, for what? I'm like, this thing is coming. I remember we went to buy 20 liter sanitizer. And true story, I didn't even have the money to buy the 20 liter that day. She's like, no, I've got money. She paid for the 20 liter. We got there. There's a friend of mine, Ndaba, she's a graphic designer. It's very good. I said, I want you to design a medical's command that looks 105 years. Those were my words. Same day, I said, I need it today because I don't have time. He sent it same day. We bought the 500 mils, put the stickers, started decanting. It didn't even take a week.
Go on.
Cases of COVID in South Africa.
I started.
I'm just in my house. Cars started coming. Now when people come, like, when did you guys start? No, this company has been there for years. Even if you go to the website, I think it's written like, I don't know when it started. But to me, that's being an entrepreneur. You know, then now there was it level 5. Now you can't do this in the East End.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and you need this license. Quickly, I get the license. Call this guy, like, guys, I need a warehouse. Agent, I got the warehouse. You know, NEC used to come to that factory. People thought like, and I didn't even start any capital. Like, people will come, I'll go and buy from the Chinese, then I end up like, okay, stocking, supplying Botswana, Zim. That's how I got into the medical space.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Then
at what point, because we started hearing reports, but it was still kind of like an overseas thing. So at what point, in terms of dates, because I feel like COVID hit Africa March of 2020.
Yeah.
Or rather, 2020, the beginning of 2020 is when the cases in Africa started rising.
But we started actually 2019, end of 2019.
Wow.
Or when it had just blown up in China.
But remember, people started buying sanitizers. People started buying masks. And remember, the other thing that made me realize that this is Chinese were already having stock of masks in South Africa. And that to me was the proof that this thing is coming. Then on the mining side, I always say, I've been so foolish, and I regret that. So from my days when I was young, my dad used to be against ZANU-PF. You know, ZANU-PF. I grew up, went to varsity, ZANU-PF. I came to South Africa. I also grew into that. And I used to have a cousin who used to be a commander in the army. And one day he says to me, Victor, I know you went to school. I want you to come and get a farm in Sam. I'm like, you know, I'm sorry. Then that guy, he had like a big farm. He says, you know, one day I saw his photos, you know, the amount of tomatoes that he had, the amount of keki that he had. One day I went to Zim. I met guys that are doing mining. You know, there was this transformation in my heart that, Victor, if you can't beat them, you need to join them. Who's foolish here? I changed my mind. I got a farm. Started buying cake. And the farm that I got, I realized there's gold. I'm like, I'm in.
Wow.
Oh!
I'm like, I'm in. And I'm like, and now, you know, when you see like your head is growing, like this thing is real. I started with like 2, 3, 5, now 40. Like, there's so much to do in Zim. Now I've got about 3 mines. You know, I haven't started making money mining. And I lost money when I started. Like, I'm talking about
the investment.
I lost money, like real money, and you know. But the confidence that I have in that country, and my strategy right now is to really go into more like troubled countries, Zim, DRC, you know. So I'm actually starting something on copper in DRC as well. So to me, South Africa is a place that my kids are safe. The mine. I usually say, you ask all the kids that are at high school around those places, is there mining as a subject? There's gold everywhere. There's no mining as a subject. To me, it already kills the whole curriculum. Why can't these kids here focus on mining and agriculture? Because this is what's in this land, you know? So you start to realize that even
prevalent across Africa.
Exactly. Yeah. So you start to realize that even the education that we got, it was just taking us in the wrong direction altogether.
Wow.
Yeah.
100%.
Yo, man.
Just take this opportunity to thank you so much, Victor, for coming through and sharing your truth. I think we definitely benefited as the younger African males and also the African males and also the ladies. Watching, and we thank you, Olivia, for being part of this show.
But next time, please share your drinks as well, eh?
Tino, what did you do, man? What did you do at home?
I thought someone was going to ask me.
What did you do at home, right? Because this is a little bit too much. What did you do at home? Tell us, what
Unless
happened?
Tino's wife is actually, she could have actually bought.
You know what?
And then she said, wear it so that those girls know.
I think Tino's avoiding the couch.
That's a couch
But you know, guys,
situation.
I've actually realized that my wife in terms of you should try it if you don't. My wife picks clothes for me. She's the one that buys my clothes now.
No, but he was wearing a shirt that his wife picked for him.
Yeah, I think this wife picking your clothes kind of works.
If you say, Tino, you're looking
In
good.
our last episode, in our last episode, my wife was like, "You should wear this shirt," and I was like, "I don't think it's gonna fit. I don't think it's looking
You
good."
see now?
And then I wore it, and I was like, "Wow!"
So I think over the years, okay, we've been married 11.
Yeah.
So I think around year 6,
But
7.
not 11, like you said. Maybe it's about 5. Subtract those hard times.
Exactly.
So I think in year 7, 8, I started to, progressively accept that, okay, she kind of knows.
There's some things that you can't fight, right?
She actually knows what looks good on me, what doesn't.
Yeah,
Let me just accept that.
And they know where to find the clothes anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah,
When you
no,
don't know
true.
where those
No,
things
true.
are.
Yeah. So you make your life much easier.
No,
Yeah.
no, you need to tell Slim, bro.
Hey, man.
Slim just needs to join us, bro. Slim is dying to join the club. I can tell.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and I forgot to mention fantasy football. Thank you to everyone who's joined fantasy football. And I think for the past 3 months,
He's just been winning.
We've had one winner.
One.
His name is Piero Jean from Kenya.
Kenya.
He's been on top
Piero,
of the
thank
league
you so
for the
much,
past
bro.
3 months.
He's rigging
And,
the league.
Yeah.
I just everybody just try hard to beat Piero, and you will get a prize as well. And thank you guys for joining the league.
Thanks again, guys, for
Yeah.
watching the show. We really appreciate it, like what Tino's saying. It means a lot to us when we hear people like Vivian Koma saying, "Yo, I watched the episode," and and to get people who then come again for other episodes, like Olivia.
Yeah.
So it means a lot to us when we get response from you guys. So
Share,
please let us
like,
know.
subscribe.
Yes, share, like, and subscribe. So please share with us, and let us know what you guys would think of this episode, what you've learned, what you're unlearning, what you'd like us to talk about, and thank you so much.
And I think we need to give tribute to the new studio. Right?
Absolutely.
Saint Studios.
They also give us like
We've got the personalized bottles. And this is our new home, and let us know what you think of our new home, and I think we'll be here for...
I think we'll have like a whole, I don't know what they're going to put on the screen. but
Yes, just to advertise
the
themselves
location,
and see where you find them.
yes.
And we strongly recommend them. Very professional
and beautiful. It's a beautiful setup.
100%. All right, on that note, guys,
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Okay,
Cheers, eh?
See you guys on the next one.
take care.
The motherland, the African man. Long as I'm alive, I'ma make a plan. Strong hosts to break, got long walks to take. Got no votes to make, we don't bet, we pray. Hey, African man, yeah. The African male iris.